But a nice guy's typically trying to become what he believes other people want him to be in order to get their approval and their love and get his needs met, and hide anything about him that might get a negative reaction from other people. And for most nice guys, what they tend to hide most is their needs, their wants, and their sexuality.
What's up? This is Will Ennis, and you're listening to Create Up. It's a podcast where I talk to different artists about their creativity. I'll be speaking with musicians, directors, comedians, writers, and more. They've all had great success, and they are graciously sharing their stories with us. So let's get into it. Yo, what's up? Welcome to episode 5 of Create Up. I'm Will Ennis, and today I'm thrilled to be speaking with author, speaker, and therapist, Dr. Robert Glover. He's the man. This summer, I came across his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it was a game changer. If you're overly nice, this is a book about how that's a pathology. Yes, a sickness, and you got to get over that, and he's going to give you strategies to do just that. Now, this is a podcast on creativity, but not just creativity in art. I'm talking about creativity in our lives and how to create the best versions of ourselves that we can. So for me, the process starts reading books like his. So I highly suggest you reading that if you feel like you are a quote-unquote nice guy. Robert's great. He has over 30 years of experience as a therapist. He's also a dating coach. He's also a couples therapist. So he talks about how to keep relationships spicy and sexy. So you're going to learn a lot from Robert. I'm very excited to show you this. This is going to be great. And by the way, what do you think of this music? I want to thank Brandon for making it. He's a friend and fan of the show, and he made this instrumental specifically for the podcast. So Brandon, thank you. It sounds amazing, man. Check him out on Instagram at Brandom Music. That's Brandom, not Brandon. So it's like random with a B, Brandom. Boom. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to my talk with Dr. Robert Glover. Dr. Robert Glover, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's good to talk with you and your creative type folks listening to this.
Yeah, thanks, man. I was really excited as soon as I finished your book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It was recommended to me this summer, and it kind of reframed my behaviors, which was a godsend, because I'm a people person. I love people. I love being quote unquote nice. But I noticed there was downsides to my behavior. Often I was overspending myself with people, you know,
Sure.
The guy that would help you move at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. And honestly, I found I had this like inner frustration that I didn't really know about. And every now and then I would kind of get overly angry about something, and it seemed out of proportion. And when I read your book, the thing that I found best about your writing on this topic was it basically held up a mirror to me again and again and again through this book. So for people that don't know and they just hear No More Mr. Nice Guy, they probably think, what's wrong with being nice? I was curious if you could share what you mean by a nice guy.
Sure. And you gave just really good personal illustration of what it looks like. Basically, I define a nice guy as a man who's inaccurately internalized. This always begins in childhood, inaccurately internalized a belief, I'm not okay. I'm not good enough just as I am. So nice guys are typically, and this applies to women as well, to nice girls, but a nice guy is typically trying to become what he believes other people want him to be in order to get their approval and their love and get his needs met, and hide anything about him that might get a negative reaction from other people. So as you can say, you gave a couple examples. One is you'd help somebody move, 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. By the way, I've since made a rule for myself. I do not help people move. It's an automatic default no.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nice guy in me would have done that. So that's you trying to be something, to be what people want you to be. And then you'll be liked and loved, and they'll think you're a great guy. And it's that external validation that nice guys are often shooting for. People will think well of me.
Yeah.
The other side of that, the hiding the stuff about us that we don't want anybody to know, we think we might get a negative reaction. And for most nice guys, what they tend to hide most is their needs, their wants, and their sexuality. So for example, you mentioned the blowing up kind of out of the blue that is out of proportion. Probably that's an example of over time, either you not asking for what you wanted and just kind of settling, or you not setting some boundaries or some terms of what you want from the people in your life. So, they're under delivering as you think you're over delivering. And then over time, that builds up a real wall of resentment. And it's not unusual for, we'll say, quote, nice guys to not be nice in terms of how that comes out. It often either comes out as a victim puke, maybe kind of like you experienced, or like, some little, the straw that broke the camel's back, you're blowing up and you're spouting everything you've been rehearsing in your head you wanted to say to that person for the last 6 months because you've been, pissed off, but probably not even really aware of how pissed off you really were until you blew up. The other way it can come out is what we'd call passive aggressive behavior, to where, it's an indirect expression of your anger, a jab, a poke, a forgetting, a commitment you made to that person, and embarrassing them in public, making a joke that you thought was funny but hurt their feelings. So these are some ways that nice guys are not necessarily nice. As you said, you're a people person, I'm a people person. We want people to be happy. We want people to like us. But if you're hiding you and trying to become something to get people to like you, you're not authentic, you're not honest, you're not letting people see the whole picture of who you are, because we've all got a dark side. We've all got that anger stuff. We've all got this, twisted, kinky sexuality that we're afraid to let anybody see. We've all got that. And as long as we're hiding it, we're not authentic. We're not real. And ironically, people can't really deeply connect with us. While we're wanting connection, we actually do the very things that prevent people from really getting close to us.
That's interesting. I relate to that. Sometimes, like I have a partner right now, and I've found we've had a lot of great times together, but the bonding times seem to be sharing the darknesses, the shames, the thing where you're like, okay, well, if I say this, is this over? Am I fucking this up? But I kind of got to tell her. I kind of say this, say that. And I find those are the solidifying things. Even sometimes I don't want to say what's the word? When you betray someone, but sometimes when you've hidden a truth and then you come out with it, you feel like you betrayed them and you're risking the trust of the relationship. But sometimes you just got to unload those truths, at least I feel, to get closer to someone. You have to be truthful. And it sounds ridiculous. It's so obvious. You have to be truthful. Yet that was a profound insight for me from reading your book. Yeah. It's like how untruthful people are, how untruthful I've been at times. And I'm sure maybe, even you today, maybe, I don't know, like.
Well, I'll give an example, not of me, but of somebody I know, my wife.
Okay.
My wife is the most trustworthy person I know. And she loves the intimate relationship she and I have. She loves dressing sexy and beautiful for me, but she never really sought men's attention. And we've been married 4 years now, and she's a typical jealous Latina. She's Mexican. So she's always accusing me. You looked at that woman's butt. You looked at her boobs. And, I work really hard to have nothing hidden or secretive in our relationship. I've done that before. It makes life too difficult. Mm-hmm. But she says, you never get jealous of me. And I said, you never do anything to make me jealous. You don't flirt with men. You're not chatting with men, on WhatsApp or on Facebook. I said, you don't give me anything to be jealous of. Well, yesterday, we've been up in Seattle for a week visiting my mother. We flew back to Puerto Vallarta where we live yesterday afternoon. And we took a little nap after traveling. And she says, I got to tell you something. And again, my wife, I've never caught her in anything that resembled an untruth. And she says, I got to tell you something. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but there's a man who we both know at a distance, who she's had to have contact with a couple of times. And apparently, while we were up at my mom's house, he started texting her and sending her messages and, asking her questions and coming on kind of strong. And she said, first she kind of responded to some of his messages till she realized, hey, this isn't going, in the direction she wanted to go. So she's telling me that. And she said, so I sent him, I said, hey, I'm happily married. I'm not going to do anything to mess my relationship up. I don't want to continue this line, of contact with you. And she said, please respect, that.
She wrote that, or you wrote that to him?
She wrote that to him. She wrote.
Okay.
I didn't know about any of this till yesterday afternoon. So yesterday afternoon, she's kind of telling me this, and we're snuggled up in the bed, and she's telling me, and I go, wow, this is new. This has never come up in our marriage. And then she said, I thought about telling you this for my mom's house. She goes, but I didn't know how you'd react to it, and I didn't know if you'd be angry or get upset. I didn't know. And so I called a girlfriend and talked to her about it, and said, I was really afraid to tell you about it. And she said, so I was kind of waiting for a good time to tell you. And so then she shared all this yesterday afternoon. And the truth was, I wasn't a bit angry. I can understand the appeal of somebody paying a little attention to you and thinking you're great. And she said, and then she said, I deleted all of his messages, but then I thought, I could have showed them to you. They would have all been in Spanish, and we speak Spanish, but I'm not that fluent that I would have understood everything he said. And I said, no, you handled it. You told me about it. That's all I care about. And I said, it doesn't surprise me this man was attracted to you. It doesn't surprise me other men aren't attracted to you. And I said, I'm grateful for the way you handled it. So that's one of those things that I know in a marriage, a lot of times people might just, I don't have to tell my partner. I didn't do anything wrong. I cut it off. I didn't run with it. I didn't turn it into anything else. But that's what I value about my wife is that, she even said, I was scared to tell you. And I thought, wow, this woman, I didn't think she was afraid of much of anything. She's a tough lady. And so that made me feel closer to her, that she revealed this thing that was scary for her to tell me, that in which she hadn't done anything wrong. She wasn't, I can't blame her for anything. In fact, everything makes sense. That kind of stuff happens from time to time.
Totally.
But she cut it off. And so that just made me trust her more, love her more, feel closer to her. And so that's where nice guys think, well, if this might upset somebody, or if they might think badly of me, or if it starts a fight, if it rocks the boat, I'll just keep it in because, no harm, no foul. I didn't do anything wrong. But the truth is sexy, right? Honesty, transparency, vulnerability,
it's raw
human
too.
Imperfection. It's raw. It's sexy. Yeah. And, and then now I know my wife and I, we can both turn that into something that is sexy between the two of us. Now I can start telling stories about, I know everywhere we go, men are checking out your ass and they're wanting to da 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 da. So it turned into something that she was afraid to tell me, that we can make art of it and we can play with it and we can use it to something to heat up our relationship because it's real.
Well, you know what? Okay, I'm a bit split on this because they're the little lies. You might check out another woman.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know you, but I'm going to be like, hey, babe, she's got a nice ass right there. That's what I'm thinking right now. I may not.
If a woman walks by and she has a nice ass and I tell my wife, I don't know, she knows I'm lying because she can see has a nice ass.
Fair.
So of course you have to say, and there's that thing of, well, and we can go another road with this because here's an interesting part of it. Like I said, my wife's got this Latina jealousy. Well, she's even told me, she's a very intuitive woman. She's even said, she's in Spanish, she says when she's jealous, it makes her caliente. And caliente is just a word for hot, but it means horny in Spanish slang. And she said, I don't like being jealous, but it turns me on. So we've actually then take that in our own sexual fantasies. We'll create all kinds of stories that if they were in real life, she'd shoot me, right? She'd cut my dick off. But in fantasy, because we can use the jealousy. So I teach men about something I call positive emotional tension. And that women have to have emotional tension to feel attracted to a man and be sexually aroused. We're going a few different directions, but all of us nice guys are thinking, I'll hide this. I won't let her know. Well, this wasn't a big deal. Well, I'll talk her through. I'll talk her down. I'll get her over it. I'll deny. All of those things.
Perfect.
We'll keep it smooth. But women, David Data, I don't know if you're familiar with him, says, for women, drama is foreplay. Drama is foreplay. For us nice guys, no, I don't want the drama. Don't accuse me of something I didn't do. So I've come to realize that my wife being a little bit jealous isn't a terrible thing. It's that drama that is foreplay, that if I go try to kill that, because I want everything smooth as a nice guy, and I don't want to think I'm being accused of something I didn't do. I'm not a bad guy. I don't look at women's butts unless they're like really nice looking butts. And yeah, of course I can't help but notice them. Anyway, you letting this stuff, whether it be, that darkness of some guy was sending her text messages and she realized, hey, he's coming on to me, whether it's me acknowledging, yeah, of course I saw that woman, or whether it's, playing with this stuff in the darkness of, romantic fantasy. It is the dark stuff that makes life interesting. It's the dark stuff. And I always say that, for example, that people say, well, what's the best way to create healthy emotional tension in relationship? And I say honesty. Honest relationships never get boring. Yeah. There's always something to keep them interesting if they're honest.
Oh, definitely, man. And it's interesting that the drama that you're talking about isn't fabricated. You know what I mean? The way a nice guy would fabricate, oh, everything is perfect, I'm a good guy. Right. The drama is just the fact that like we're human beings with impulses in different directions and all these things. And it just seems like the more truthful you are, the drama is going to come. And it's like, how can you, or at least what I'm getting from the book, what I'm trying to learn myself, it's like, how can you manage the drama of truth and still keep your partner with you? And it's not like just, being truthful is going to keep her there. At least for me, I'm navigating, keeping her from slapping me in the face sometimes, but it is exciting when you're as truthful as possible is when you're probably most dramatic, when you're not fabricating some tension to make her jealous or anything like that. It's just,
no.
Being a dude.
This isn't like, yeah, no, it's not like red pill stuff that I'm going to make her feel insecure about herself.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. I've been a marriage therapist for over 30 years. That's what my background and training said. And I'm on my third marriage. Becoming a marriage therapist didn't teach me anything. How do you do marriage? I've been down this road. And one of the things I tell men, because I now mainly work with men since my book came out about 20 years ago, most of my work's with men. But because I've worked with a lot of couples, I've worked with a lot of women, I tell guys, in general, a woman can handle a difficult truth. What she can't handle is being lied to. And we men will come up with these kind of slippery definitions of honesty, kind of like Bill Clinton. Well, what's your definition of is? So we think, well, I told her kind of most of the truth. I just left out this one part that I thought might upset her the most. That's not being honest. That's not being true. Because here's the thing. I think everybody knows this, but women as security-seeking creatures are especially sensitive to it. If you tell a woman a difficult truth, the whole truth, she may not like every aspect of what you just told her, but her trust level in you will go up because she knows you did something that took a lot of courage. I knew it took courage for my wife to tell me a difficult truth. And the actual truth of it didn't upset me either. But it made my respect for her go up and my trust level go up even further, that I know it scared her to tell me that. And so in relationship, when we can tell those difficult truths, and here's the thing, like I said, I've worked with couples for 30 plus years. I've seen guys do this, especially nice guys. They'll fess up to something. Maybe they got caught.
Yeah.
And they just, looking at the porn for the 18th time after they said they'd quit it, or, whatever. They get caught at something. And then they fess up, and they'll fess up 95% of the truth and leave 5% out. And I'm thinking, you've already told all the gory, bloody detail, but guys will hold this 5% back. And I don't know if it's because we just need to feel guilty, or we need to have something to hold hanging over us, or we need to have something that's just our own, kind of like going up in our little secret tree fort and looking at daddy's Playboy magazines and nobody can take it away. I don't know what it is, but like we'll tell 95%, leave one part out, and now still live in dread that she's going to find out that other part we left out when we could have just told her with the 95%. If she's going to cut our dick off, we've already given her enough to cut our dicks off, right?
Yeah.
That other 5% isn't what's going to take it over the top.
Yeah.
So this honesty stuff, it is the first thing I started working on when I started my nice guy issue, because my second wife said to me, listen, I can't take this anymore. I can't take your passive aggressiveness. Everybody thinks you're such a nice guy. I'm so lucky to have you, but you can be really hurtful to me. You can be really untrustworthy, and you need to go get help. And first thing I did is I joined a 12-step group. She says, you're a sex addict. You need to go get help. So I went to a 12-step group for sex addicts, all guys. I loved it. I found out quickly I wasn't a sex addict. I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict. But it was a great place to just start revealing me, revealing all the truth about me. And I got into it, started working as a therapist. And pretty early on in this experience, and this goes back to telling the whole truth and how it's sexy and how it keeps a relationship alive and doesn't create, like you say, artificial drama. Mm-hmm. I had an experience where I had a pretty dark impulse to do something that when I kind of took a step back from it, I thought, that's not me. And that actually scares me that I had this impulse to behave in this way. And it was a form of sexual acting out. I didn't do it, but it kind of scared me. In the past, I would have just kept that to myself. I would not have told a soul about that dark impulse. I was glad I didn't act on it, but it scared me that I even thought about it. Mm-hmm. So I went to my 12-step group and I shared them with them that, and I get done and they all go, thank you for sharing, Robert. That's it. Nobody, these guys are, their behaviors were off the chain. So, whatever I did, this thought that I had, they're going, yeah, okay, fine. So anyway, but that felt good to just tell because I never would have done that before. So then I actually had an appointment with my therapist right after that. It was a woman therapist. And I thought, all right, I'm going to tell her about it because it scares me. And again, this was not I grew up in a fundamental Christian church, grew up with a very critical father, hide everything. Don't let anybody see anything that might get a negative reaction. So that's what I'd always done. So I told my therapist about it. And my therapist just looked at me with compassion. And she said, well, let's explore that. Let's see what that's about. And I thought, well, that's not hard. that wasn't too rough. So I'm driving home after therapy and I'm thinking, man, I'm batting 1,000. I told my 12-step group, I told my therapist, nobody melted down, nobody had a reaction. I need to go home and tell my wife. Now, I used to tell my second wife, who I was married to when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, I used to tell her that her middle name ought to be Overreact, because that's what she did in every situation. I could always count on an overreaction no matter what. Okay. So I was always trying to, do my, jujitsu and manage all of that. So anyway, I thought I'm batting 1,000. I'm going to go tell her, even if she has a negative reaction, I'm still batting 666, major league, that's it, right? Those
are still Hall of Fame numbers, right?
Exactly. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. So I went home and I told her, I said, hey, she was at home. I said, I got to tell you something. We got to talk. Took her back to the bedroom. We sat down and I said, here's the deal. I said, I had this impulse a couple of days ago. It really scared me. I talked about it with my 12-step group. I talked about it with my therapist. I explored it with my therapist. And I knew I needed to come tell you about it. And she just looked at me. She said, well, number one, that doesn't surprise me. Number two, it kind of scares me a little bit. And number three, thank you for telling me. And she never brought it up again. This is a woman that overreacted to every little thing. And I told her this really dark thing that I would have been afraid to have told anybody. And I'm thinking, in a period of 3 hours, I've told 3 people and I'm still batting 1,000. I'm hitting it out of the park. Telling something that scared me to death to tell somebody, and nobody had a negative reaction. And in fact, it created a deeper trust level for every connection that I had. So that's where being honest keeps things interesting without necessarily creating some kind of artificial drama for drama's sake.
Oh, for sure. And why do you think she was overreacting before? Like, if there's a difference in her behavior that time, what do you think it was?
Well, there's a whole story behind. Well, there's a bigger story without, we all want to diagnose our partners, right? And but she just had a personality type that just overreacted to everything. That's just who she was.
Fair.
But what strikes home is that in terms of us men relating with women, as I've already made this comment, but I've said for a while, the one thing I tell men I know for sure about women is that Mother Nature has wired them to be security-seeking creatures. They've never felt safe walking the planet. I'll tell guys, take a poll of the women you know. Ask them, do they feel safe walking in their own neighborhood alone at night? Or for that matter, in the daytime alone? And most women will say, no way. Whereas we men might not even think about that.
No,
I tell guys the whole hashtag Me Too movement is women saying, I don't feel safe. I feel done too in ways that don't feel good to me all the time. And women around the world could all relate to that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when a woman actually meets a guy that is honest and is transparent and is trustworthy and shows that over time and will tell the difficult truths and will own up to his stuff, that is so liberating for the majority of women, because most women have not experienced that with a guy. Like I said, most of us men have kind of a skewed definition of honesty. Well, yeah, if I'm 80% honest, that's honest. I'm honest most of the time, but there's a contradiction of terms. I'm pretty honest. That's contradiction of terms. Honesty is honesty. Honesty means you can go to the bank and count on this person 100% of the time. That's honesty. So, and that is sexy to women because it makes them feel safe. And when women feel safe, they can open. And when women open, they experience the depth of what I call feminine bliss. That most women are walking around guarded, protecting themselves because they have to. So they don't get to experience the depth of feminine bliss that true honesty and intimacy can bring to a woman.
That's a beautiful sentiment, man. Do you find?
Yeah, I'm that kind of guy.
Do you find that in this era of Me Too, like that was a really beautiful sentiment and awareness of how women feel? I mean, I don't know for sure, but that makes sense to me that they're constantly on guard and it's way different than our experience of the world. Do you find, as a guy that does a lot of dating advice for men, do you find it frustrating? Do you find like you're kind of categorized as someone who's like insensitive to the female perspective or anything like that? Like, do you get that flack and stuff? Or?
I have not actually, and it's an interesting question because when we published No More Mr. Nice Guy, 2003, I think my publishers were hoping there'd be some flack, that there'd be some blowback,
controversy to up the sales,
whatever. Yeah, that's all they cared about is, do we sell more books? And it never happened. It never materialized. The book has not been controversial. I mean, I talk to men about being honest and real and transparent and, having integrity and being authentic. And I've got more blowback from men than I have from women. I maybe have gotten, at most in close to 20 years, maybe 5 or 6 angry emails from women. And all of them were usually, you could tell they hadn't read the book. And most of them was because their boyfriend or husband had read the book, was leaving them, and they were blaming me for that. So that's been the blowback. Now, when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, I was married. And I'd never really been single as an adult male. I got married right out of college. I've been married 25 years. So the book came out about the time I divorced from my second wife, the overreacting second wife. And so I was out there in the world as a single guy for the first time as an adult in my late 40s. So I had to learn how to date. And, learning how to date, of course, my clients are giving me books and CDs and websites. And that's when pickup was just really starting to blow up. The Game, like Neil Strauss and all these pickup artists were blowing up. And so, I read all that stuff and looked at all that stuff. And there's some basic psychological truth to a lot of the things behind it, but I didn't like the games of it, and I didn't like kind of the demeaning, she's hot, she's a notch on my bed, I got her number, blah blah, I'm cool, blah. It just seems so ego based, and usually it was guys that had very little social skills, trying to learn how to talk to women, and I've said that, and I think in general pickup's demeaning to both the women and men. It says, well, that woman, look at her across the room. She looks hot. I like her tits. I think her tits will make me happy. I'm going to walk across the room and talk to her because I like her tits. I mean, what other reason are we walking across the room to talk to a strange woman and risk rejection? It's because we like some body part and we think that body part is going to make our life better. And so that's demeaning, right? She's a body part. And I think it's demeaning to us that we're just going to, I talk to so many men, like they'll say, well, if I can't date a 10, I won't date at all. And most of these guys don't have the social skills to talk to a 3. But I said, that's like saying if you can't drive a Bentley, you're not going to drive at all. Start with a Honda Civic, work your way up. But go out and get some skills in social relating. So I don't teach approach and I don't teach pickup. And, but that's what all guys want, because they want to know how, when they see that particular woman, who, again, they like her tits, how do I get that woman how do I get her number? And I go, I don't teach that. What I do teach is living your life in such a way, being comfortable in your own skin, living life in your own terms, being a social animal, living up to your potential, living with confidence. I think those things make a man very attractive to all things feminine. And then what I teach men is notice the women that are now sending you signals of availability and attraction. The eye contact, the smile, the touching your arm, the laughing at your jokes, the walking in front of you too many times, the bending over and you getting a little bit of a cleavage shot, or the jutting a little bit of a hip. Men don't know to look for that stuff. My jealous Latina wife has taught me to look for that. That woman was jutting her hip, and I'm going, and why are you mad at me? She jut her hip, and now I'm in trouble. I go, I didn't even notice the jut of the hip. But women notice, because they know what those signals are. So I teach men to be aware of those signals and then to respond and walk through the open door, and then practice what I call testing for interest. So I don't teach men a skill set that is invasive of women. I understand. Because like I'll tell guys, can you imagine, since you were 3 years old, say you're a cute little girl, mommy dresses you in dresses, everywhere you go, oh, you're so cute, everybody wants to touch you and talk to you and get your attention, and then you hit adolescence and you get boobs, and now every boy in junior high is staring at your boobs, and they talk to you and you don't know why they're talking to you. These used to just be your buddies, now they're looking at you funny. Then you get your first boyfriend at 16 or 17 and you think he loves you, and really he was scared shitless, but he wanted you to touch his wiener, and then every other man you've been with, you found out you couldn't trust him, and everywhere you go, men are looking at you and walking up and starting conversations in the gym and the coffee shop, and I said, you don't know what these men have in mind. You don't know if he's talking to you because he's looked at your tits. Women do know that. They know why we approach and talk to them, and you don't know if is he going to be a decent human being, if he's going to slime you, if he's going to. And so can you imagine having to walk the planet, have that kind of guard up all the time? And then we men go, well, women just aren't friendly. They're just not available. They're just not approachable. Yeah. If you were having people approach you and hit on you with motives that you don't know and aren't sure of all the time for most of your life, how open would you be? And
absolutely, yeah.
So I don't teach men that. So as a result, I don't know that I've gotten really much of any negative blowback from women. I teach men,
sure.
Okay, let's do something that respects the women and respect you. And I'll quote David Data again. A great book for your listeners called The Way of the Superior Man.
Yeah, that is a great book.
I heard him make a comment at a workshop one time. He said, choose the woman who chooses you. Because I'm thinking, that's the mistake most men make. We go chasing after a woman that doesn't even know we exist, right? We chase her because she's hot, but she doesn't even know we exist. Even men in relationship. Our woman, maybe hasn't wanted to have sex with us for 6 months, never treats us nice, but we're still trying to get her to choose us and be nice to us and get naked with us. And I've just personally found that's a fool's errand to try to get an unchoosing woman to choose you, to try to get an unavailable woman to be available, an unaroused woman aroused. It's much easier if you hang out with the women who already think you're fucking amazing. Right?
Absolutely.
That's the open doors you walk through. My wife, like I said, been married, just celebrated 4 years of being married. She thinks I'm an amazing human being. Now we've got our issues, stuff comes up, but she still thinks I'm an amazing human being, and she can't imagine herself not being with me. And like I said, even with that little story I told her at the beginning, she says she told this guy, I've got a great marriage. I'm not going to break my marriage just because you think you want something from me. So she thinks I'm amazing. And why wouldn't I choose that? Why wouldn't a man choose a woman who thinks he's fucking amazing?
You seem from our conversation that one of the most creative things is how you've grown as a person, right, and how it sounds like the crux of it happened later in life, like late 40s. Is that when you feel like you started to change? Would that have been when you changed, that second marriage?
Honestly, where the change began was in my second marriage. And I often refer to my second wife as the big stick upside my head. I mean, she along with that, one of the reasons she tended to overreact is she was extremely intuitive. So like, she would intuit things and she'd say, "You're lying to me." And she'd like say, "You're lying." And then she would tell me what she thought I was lying about, right? You lied about this. And I'd be sitting there in my head going, I mean, this is freaky. She's right. I am lying to her. I'm thinking this while I'm having a discussion, right, with her, and I'm going, but she's wrong about what I'm lying about. Therefore, I've got a built-in deniability, right? No, you're wrong. That's not true. I didn't say, yeah, I am lying to you, but you're wrong about what I'm lying about. At the same time, I began to say, yes, you're right. I'm lying to you. But she was that intuitive. So she was the big stick that didn't let me get away with just being the slippery, nice guy that could just talk her down, talk her through, get her over it, get it back to good. I had to really go work on my stuff and learn to be real and learn to be vulnerable and learn to be honest and learn to be transparent and learn to make my needs a priority and take responsibility for them. I had to go do big work. And like I said, I joined 12-step groups. I did therapy. I was in men's group for several years. I, to this day, have a coach. And I'm in a men's program. This is my third year in it that runs like 8 months out of the year. I'm still, working on me and addressing me. That period of my life where I was single in between my second and third wife, a period of about 12 years, I had some relationships in there, but learning to live alone and learning to date and learning to I learned so many life skills during that time as well that I'm so grateful for. And the way I look at all my past experiences, whether it's my 3 marriages, some other significant relationships I've had, I'm grateful for all of them because they all taught me things that I needed to learn to be a more complete human being and to really to be more self-aware and get my needs met and live life on my terms and the way I wanted to. So I'm grateful for all of the women. They were all different. They all brought their own dysfunction. I read years ago, somebody said we tend to be attracted to people who have some of the worst traits of both of our parents. So that means both the man and the woman are attracted to each other because we're attracted to people that let us work out our old stuff, our old relationship stuff from mom and dad. And again, as a marriage therapist, I've been working around that stuff for years. So
that's one thing I like about your writing so much is that you reminded me that a lot of these problems start so young, where, these experiences that happen when we're 5, or these like with our parents, with our brothers, sisters, whatever, you're reminding me that, we bring this into adulthood, buddy. Like this keeps coming back. But it does what gives me hope is it sounds like you've grown past certain traumas or old behaviors, and it's reflecting in your partners, it's reflecting in your career success, in your career path. Unless I'm just blowing smoke and you haven't changed.
No, I would agree with you that I look at my life and I take stock of my life daily and practice gratitude for what I have in life. And that's been something I integrated in my life about 20 years ago as well. It's just having gratitude for everything. The stuff, why is this happening? Why is COVID happening? Blah, blah, blah. All right, how can we be grateful for whatever the experience is bringing us? And I do have a good life. People say, Robert, you're so lucky. You live in Mexico and, you have a great wife and, you write books and you're living with passion. And I usually tell people, no luck involved. I worked my ass off to get a PhD by 29. I worked my ass off to write a book for 7 years. I worked my ass off for 10 years to figure out how to change my business to live in Mexico. And I've worked my ass off to get where I am in terms of my life. Now, of course, there's been a lot of lucky experiences, but as I've heard it said, it's funny, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So I treat everything as just that venue, that petri dish to do my work. And relationships just happen to be probably the most powerful way humans can do their work. We're not evolutionarily wired to do monogamous, long-term, pair-bonded relationships. That's not in our human history. We're trying to do something that doesn't come naturally for us. For 1.5 million, 2 million years, we were tribal, we were communal. Everything was shared, including, sexual access.
Yeah.
Everything was shared. Now we're trying to say, no, we got to pair bond. You got to pick somebody, make a good pick at 18 and keep them for life. I mean, that stuff just doesn't work. So we think, oh, I failed at my, no, we're all bumbling our way through a relationship. It's not in our DNA. Even dating is not in human. Dating's only existed maybe 60, 80 years. Prior to that, most marriages were arranged, or you married, your sister's best friend or the girl on the farm next door. That's how we had partner selection. So all these things we're trying to do that frustrate us so much: the dating, the mating, the courting, the long-term relationships, the sexual monogamy, all this stuff that we think is supposed to be easy and that we should, if we find the right person, everything will work. No, there is no right person to make it all work. What I think is a healthier attitude is to say, okay, if this stuff is not natural, if sexual monogamy is not natural, if lifelong pair bonded relationships are not natural, dating is not natural, that means they're an opportunity for powerful growth, because if we show up consciously to those things, we're going to have to pay attention and find out what works and what doesn't, what works better than the things that don't work. And so I often refer to conscious relationships and dating as a powerful personal growth machine, because if we'll let them, they will teach us so much about ourselves, the baggage we're packing with us from childhood, just about how to live up to our best self and have our best life. So it's all powerful stuff. But I try to help people understand when they say, well, I have a failed marriage. I go, let's change the vocabulary. Your marriage did what marriages do. Look around. The majority of marriages don't last a lifetime. And even when they did, lifetimes were really short. And even if they seem to now, my mother stayed with my dad till he died 11 years ago. She's never been happier since he passed away. But she stayed. They had a lifelong marriage, and she was unhappy for the majority of it.
Oh, it's amazing to see people, especially as they get older, in like these unhappy marriages. And it seems like now I'm starting to notice like age, like 60, 70, or 80 doesn't really apply. It's more like the weight on that person. You know what I mean? Like when I talk to you,
I like that.
Yeah. Like when I talk to you, I don't think of you as a specific age. I know you're older, I turned 65 3 days ago.
Oh, and nice. That kind of freaked me out. 65 seems kind of old, but I like the way you put it. I don't feel like I've got a lot of weight on me.
Yeah.
I feel like I felt at 35. I really don't feel any different.
It's funny. You see 20-year-olds with like mad weight. They look young, but they're all stressed and silly and all this. I mean, my 20s sucked. I'm 35 now, and I feel like I'm getting younger in a way, or at least freer in a way.
That's a good free. Yeah. That's a good feeling. Yeah. I wouldn't go back and be in my 30s again. No. I wouldn't do it. Yeah. No, but getting freer, I like it. And taking the weight off. I love that. I love those.
Dude, thank you, man. Thank you. Well, I mean, you do see it though, like as I see people in their 60s or 70s, some of them go the opposite direction. They're locked down to that old style of thinking, the patterns of their life. They're weighted down. I actually think, I kind of hate social media in many ways. But
I kind of hate it a lot, so we're on the same page.
I do use it. It's kind of an essential for me right now, like getting out content and energy.
I do use it as an essential as well. I get you.
But I noticed that like people of an older generation that don't get into social media versus those that do, they start to change in age. Like there's the 60-year-old that like will take on a new concept or a new technology, and all of a sudden they're no different than someone in their 40s. They could start a business just like someone in their 30s. They could thrive in their 80s. Yeah. And then there's the others that's like, I don't know about the Facebook, and they just kind of, it's interesting to see. It's sad to see, but it's also interesting to see that it's like, it's not really how old you are. It's like the choice you have with life, like what you're going to choose. Am I going to choose to learn this new way of being?
I agree with everything that you've said. That and I'm not just saying that because I'm a nice guy. We have to choose. I mean, are we going to stay open and keep growing? Or are we going to just hunker down? And another way to put it, are we going to have a narrow focus in life, or are we going to keep widening our focus? Yeah. And, everything I've been seeing lately, whether it's addiction, mental illness, even just like this battle like going on around politics, and you're this side, it all involves a narrowing of focus, which is typically caused by a fight, flight, freeze reaction in our body where our body's being flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. And by nature, the adrenaline and cortisol is meant to narrow focus. For people who can't see me, I'm bringing my hands in like blinders to the side. They're meant to narrow our focus, like, what do I have to do right now to survive? Do I need to run really fast? Do I need to turn and fight? Do I need to lay down and pretend like I'm dead? Is how do I get through this stressful moment? Now, what I'm seeing, and this has been really kind of an interesting idea for me, and this is just something the last few months I've really been congealing well, because I'm seeing it from a lot of different sources, that as long as we stay in that fight, flight, freeze, our bodies get worn out from all that adrenaline and cortisol. We stay in this narrow focus. And there are a lot of things we can consciously do when we notice I'm in narrow focus. Like I'm mad at my wife and I'm just rehearsing conversations with her, narrow focus. Or I'm pissed off about the election. That's all I can think about is the election. Or I'm worried about COVID. Am I going to die? I mean, I saw some people on an airplane this last week that just think, why the fuck did you get on an airplane and fly to Mexico if you were so deathly afraid of COVID? Everything about this couple was just like radiating, they had like hazmat suits on and everything. Get off the fucking airplane if you're that afraid, if your focus is that narrow.
Yeah.
Don't go to a third world country if your focus is that narrow. So, but they were miserable. I was flying in first class, and this couple came up and started a fight with the people right behind me in the last row of first class because the guy behind didn't think the other guy had his mask on enough. You've been eating for an hour without your mask. I can't eat my food because you're spreading germs. And I'm going, chill. Chill. This airplane's probably got the cleanest air of any place we're going to be the rest of the day. So, but if we get that narrow focus, it brings out the worst in us. It's that fight.
What do you think is causing
freeze.
it? What do you think is causing all this? 'Cause I agree with you. Why do you think people seem to be narrowing their focus so much these days?
Well, probably a lot of things contribute to it. One is media. One is social media. Social media. When COVID really blew up, say back March and April, I quit reading. I never watched the news 'cause I don't like major corporations putting videos of what they want me to see into my head, because you can't get that shit out once. But I even quit reading, Google News and New York Times, and I quit just because it looked like the media had an investment in COVID. It's kind of like, be scared, be scared, be scared. Keep reading, keep watching, keep blah, 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 blah. Because they do. That's what, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. They've got to keep us scared. So our politicians have learned, if they keep people scared, so they can just keep saying, the other people are cheating, the other people are lying, the other people are bad, they're out to get us. Or, so if we're all animals, and we've all got that fight, flight, freeze mechanism. So if we're bombarded with media, bombarded with social media, bombarded with politicians, bombarded with religion telling us, you're going to go to hell if you don't get this right, blah, that narrows focus. It keeps us afraid, and it keeps us in that adrenaline, cortisol, fight, flight, freeze mechanism, which doesn't let us see any big picture.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I've been doing a lot lately myself with other people is, okay, what are some things we can do to widen focus? Just noticing that we have a narrow focus helps focus. Going and sitting in nature, meditation, prayer, exercise, service to others, a gratitude practice, looking at clouds, birds,
heroin,
psilocybin, LSD. No, really, where I first came across this,
okay, cool.
Where I first came across this concept was a book called How to Change Your Mind, Michael Pollan. Great book on psychedelic substances. And it was really powerful because what he says the theory is they're using them now with depression, PTSD, trauma. Yeah. And what the theory is now is that when we're kind of in that narrow focus zone in fight, flight, freeze, we're in a part of our brain, in the center of our brain, called the default mode network. And they call it default mode network because when we're not actually solving a problem or taking care of business, it's the part of the brain we just kind of settle into. And when we're settled into there, that default mode network is basically me, is ego, is I, is how everything affects me, is how I am, how I'm perceived. And that default mode network, if it keeps us at the center of everything, that's going to keep us fairly stressed. The other thing that it does, it kind of keeps us in a state that maybe Buddhists and other spiritual teachers would talk about. It keeps us in a state of duality, that there's an us and there's another. There's an us and there's a them. And if you know, narrow focus, it is us against them. It's us against the tiger. It's Republican against Democrat. It's, it's us against them. It's us against COVID. So getting out of that duality, that God's out there, heaven's out there, I'm here, the non-duality says all is all, I am all that is, all that's ever been and all that ever will be. And recognizing that oneness with everything is broad. So meditation does that, prayer does that, gratitude does that. And apparently things like LSD and psilocybin, mushrooms, also turn off that default mode network and then lets other parts of the brain talk to each other. And most people's experience in that altered state, I guess we'll call it altered state, is that they experience a oneness with all that is. That's a pretty common experience.
Yeah, definitely. I did some this summer. I felt that. I also see a lot of press about it being like almost like a cure-all for everything. But I found, to be honest, it's not. I had anxiety for 3 or 4 weeks after, and I don't know why exactly. Maybe I feel like I had a really almost like I feel like all my serotonin was flooding on shrooms. It was amazing, and it was just But I actually found, for me personally, I was like, I don't want to do this again, because I literally was having like panic for the next couple of weeks, which is I'm an anxious dude, but not like a panicky dude. And I was like, this is weird. I feel like I've done something. Oh, it says my internet connection is a little unstable.
Yeah, it froze for a second. You weren't gone very long. Okay, and I'm not, I'm not necessarily like promoting, here's what, because I've never done either. I've never done psilocybin. I didn't smoke pot till I was in my 30s for the first time, and never got high till I was in my 40s. So I've never been inclined that direction. And I grew up at the tail end of the whole LSD, drop acid. I was in the Timothy Leary cautionary tale, Art Linkletter's granddaughter jumped off a building on a bad trip tale. So I grew up in all with the federal government working to vilify those things. Now the federal government is funding research into, especially with alcoholics, people near death with terminal cancer, depression, and apparently when coupled with appropriate therapy, there's some really powerful tools. Now again, definitely. This is not me saying, here's what everybody needs to go do, but my point is there seems to be a lot of ways we can broaden our focus. Now, it seems to begin, the process, we have to notice we're in a narrow focus. And we notice that because we're stressed, we're anxious, we're tired, we're out of energy, we're highly reactive, we're rehearsing things in our head. That's narrow focus. If you can just notice that, as I said earlier, that in itself, noticing, being the watcher, being the observer, widens focus just by noticing. Then we can do something as simple as just being still, putting both feet on the ground, hands on our legs, and just think of things that we feel grateful. Yeah, you're sitting up straight there.
Yeah, I like
just
that,
think of things we feel grateful for right now. Like I said, I love to go outside here and look at clouds go by, look at night, look at the stars, look at birds fly. I'll look at the birds. Jesus said, look at the birds of the air. They don't stress, they don't worry. And I'm thinking, those birds in that tree in my backyard have a view of the ocean from that tree that I don't have from my house that I bought, spent a lot of money for. They fucking go sit in that tree for free and they got a view and I don't have a view of the ocean. So it broadens your, I'm thinking, those birds don't even know that COVID exists. They're not stressing. So I'm not saying, live in a Pollyannish world, but if we can open and widen our focus, we get better answers to things. We're less reactionary. Life feels better in general. We're open to adventure and opportunity and open doors, but we got to widen the focus. Like, for example, go back to talking about guys around dating. If a guy's convinced, hot women are this way, attractive women don't talk to me, I'm a loser. If a woman gets to know me, she'll find out I'm not very interesting and I'm not very sexually experienced. That's all narrow focus, right? Yeah. All these internal beliefs, really narrow focus. And what if this woman, there's a woman, while this one person's focusing on that hot woman across the bar, across the street, and there's this other woman, walking by his table and smiling at him, or, stopping or asking him a question that's totally irrelevant, but, she's doing little things. But if he's so narrow focused on, got to have that 10, or no woman will ever want me, I'm not good enough, women aren't interested in me, you won't even see this woman that keeps trying to get his attention that's, a nice human being. And maybe she isn't categorically a 10, but she's not a 3 either. But if he just opened his eyes, he could walk through that open door. So narrow focus causes us to miss so much. And it causes us to keep going back, recreating old trauma. I've got an associate of mine, and he's writing a book around the subject called Drinking Fear, Pissing Courage. And he basically says what we're doing is that we keep going out and recreating these trauma experiences, even if it's just in our head, because we get a hit. Adrenaline and cortisol, they're like, getting a hit of meth. They're speed. Yeah. So we get a hit that has a payoff to it, and it keeps us in old, familiar childhood emotional states, but it just keeps us in a trauma state. So we've got to break that addiction to those. So if we get, the, Make America Great wearing hat guys, if we can widen their focus just a little bit, that, maybe the world's not going to die, if Trump isn't president, and maybe get the people on the other side to say, all right, we survived Trump one term. We didn't all die like we thought we were going to, whatever. If we can widen the focus just a little bit, life gets easier and more interesting, and there's more opportunities. So
I think unplugging would help. Unplugging from social media would help. Unplugging. There's a great documentary on Netflix called Social Dilemma, and they were saying have you seen it?
You're the 18th person that's mentioned this, so I keep hearing about it.
Oh, no, you gotta see it. You gotta see it.
I don't watch Netflix.
Well,
I've unplugged.
Okay, fair. Well, I mean, it's very profound. Like the algorithm, the social media algorithm, it knows exactly how to keep you invested in it, and that social media is like a game. And they said that getting people emotional is more likely to keep them online, and getting them negatively emotional. Well, sexually emotional is one, and another one is negatively emotional, angry. So when you see people with narrow focus, I just keep thinking about, everyone's news feed and all this like outrage people feel and all this divisiveness. Unplugging would be a big one. And guilty to say I have no intention of doing that because I'm trying to build this podcast this way, but
Okay, so here's the deal. We'll just kind of do a little segue into social media. I've never liked the majority of social media. It took me years. Finally, one of my clients years ago built my first Facebook page. I didn't want to do it. And then it was a personal page I was using for business, and I converted it over to business. So I've got 2 Facebook business pages for 2 of my books. And that's mainly because my assistant says, you got to use Facebook. You got to use Facebook. But number one, because of some glitch, I can't even buy ads or promote anyway. So it's not even that big a deal. But on my personal Facebook page, all I had on it was just close friends and family members. Yeah. So about 6 months ago, I thought, my close friends and family members don't even really post anything. So I got rid of every friend on Facebook. I only had probably 18 or 20 at that time. Got rid of every friend and unliked, unfollowed everything. Yeah. And then an amazing thing happened. That Facebook then just sent me kind of like random ads, that didn't make sense because their algorithm didn't know how to track me anymore. And then I quit getting ads altogether. Nothing. It just went dead silent because their algorithm did not know how to track me and how to feed me with the stuff that would keep me hooked in the way they want to keep you hooked.
Oh man, that's really like the scope, the Terminator scope trying to sell you stuff was like, okay, not a target. Moving on.
Not a target.
Good for you, man.
I wasn't a target anymore. So with that said, I use WhatsApp because I live in Mexico, and most of the world that's not in the U.S. uses WhatsApp to communicate. And pissed me off when the government let Facebook buy it. I saw yesterday 48 states and the Department of Justice have filed antitrust against Facebook for Instagram and WhatsApp. Maybe I posted somewhere, don't tease me with this, maybe Facebook will have to divest WhatsApp and I'll end my Facebook rant with this. A year ago, July, Zuckerberg, Facebook agreed to a $5 billion fine to the U.S. government for violating the same privacy rules they'd already been found guilty of violating and paid fines. They promised they wouldn't do it again. They kept doing it, and Zuckerberg agreed to $5 billion fine. Now I'm thinking, if corporations like this, if their CEOs got criminal convictions, jail time versus just their shareholders having to cough up $5 billion. I'm wondering if these guys had to actually go to jail for stealing our data, for like paying children to be able to access their data. I mean, if there was actually real penalties for these people violating our privacy in the ways they do, things might change in a real hurry. You know, Zuckerberg spent, 3 years in Folsom Prison. It might change how they do business. But just fining them $5 billion, they paid $19 billion for WhatsApp just to get the data.
Yeah,
so
just to drop in the bucket. Just to drop in the bucket.
Drop in the bucket. Anyway. All right, there's our little rant.
Yeah, that's going to be the conspiracy section of the show.
That maybe will stir things up as much as anything we talk. Narrowing focus, that's boring. Your wife's getting text messages from the guy next door. That's boring, Yeah, social media. Oh, man, you guys are assholes.
Dude, this has been such a pleasure, man. I do have to cut it short because my next interview is in about, at 12:30, but I need to do a little prep for it. But man, I'm a huge fan, and I recommend anyone that's interested in learning about themselves or even just dynamics, like between people, dynamics with yourself. I think you're a great teacher for that, man. And I look forward to whatever you're doing next. Can I ask what's in store for you next?
Well, I'm writing another book. I threw out a little teaser about it, the Positive Emotional Tension book. Right. Basically, the premise is women have to experience emotional tension to be attracted to and aroused by a man. And in general, we men hate emotional tension, especially in relationship. So which means we either never create it or we go out of our way to kill it if it does exist, which then kills women we want to be attracted to us and aroused by us. It kills their ability to experience that with us. And then
we got to be open to it. We
got to learn how to create it in positive, conscious ways. So that's what I'm writing a book about.
When is this coming out? Is there a drop?
When I finish writing it, it'll come out. It's still in process. I'm about if I had to guess, content-wise, I'm about 2/3 of the way through writing. So my goal is to get this thing done in 2021, perhaps mid-year.
Great.
So that's what I'm shooting for.
I love that. I mean, a book can take years and years, and that's one of the great things. Back to No More Mr. Nice Guy before we go. I felt like I was reading something that took 20 years to write because it went deep. It went deep. And when you it's different than everybody reading these self-help articles or some friend giving you advice. When you read someone that spent time on a book, you're taking a deep, deep plunge into their psychology, their experiences. And I haven't read, obviously, this new book. I'm looking forward to it. And I think you have a dating advice book as well.
Dating Essentials for Men. Yeah, it's been out for about a year. I haven't read that.
But No More Mr. Nice Guy, you can tell you put a lot of time into it. It
was a deep dive. It was my own story, my own hero's journey. So
You're like the musical artist. They say their first album, it took, their whole life to write. I feel like No More Mr. Nice Guy was like your first album, and I'll check out your other albums for sure.
Yeah, I look at it that way as well.
Every chapter is a song. So dude, thank you, man. Any words before we go?
Well, thanks for the invitation. It's been fun. Look forward to hearing this when you get it out, and go listen to my rant about social media. And
let me know if there's anything you want me to cut or anything like that. Let me know. I'd be happy to just
don't cut anything. Put it all out there.
Sweet, dude. Sweet. All right, man. I got to run because I'm going to talk to my buddy Rory now.
All right, go talk to Rory and tell people come look me up. drglover.com.
drglover.com. Guys, check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Boom.
All right, and that was that. Check out drglover.com for more on Dr. Robert Glover. That's www.drglover.com. You'll find blogs, you'll find links to his books and talks. You can even get connected to a coach through that website that can help you with your nice guy issues or your relationship troubles or whatever, or if you just want to improve as a person. I'm honored he came through. He had so many cool things to say. I love how he is so free to express his opinions. I find people these days, myself included, so cautious and careful, and it's just such a breath of fresh air when someone says, fuck it, and they just fly with it, and they just say what they want to say, and that's really powerful. I think I and other people could definitely learn from that. So again, Dr. Robert Glover, you're welcome anytime. You are the greatest, dude. And thanks again to @Brandom Music as well for this dope, jazzy, chilled out instrumental. You are a talent, my friend. And thank you, the listener, for your attention and your support. Please tell people about this podcast. Share it on Instagram, social media, any way you want. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Check you on the next episode. All the best. Take care. Bye.